Mr. Judah Friedman. God damn, it's been a long time. It's been at least a couple days.
I would say
A day since on the phone.
really, we're like chatty Cathy dolls.
Well, in today's society, you have to be careful who you talk to. So you don't want to talk to random people anymore like we used to be able to, because you never know what shit show you're going to get. And I don't want to hear about their problems, A, and I don't want to hear about their politics usually. So it's kind of a crapshoot. So I tend to stick to my own, shall I say, and not that way. It makes life a lot less friction-y. Is I guess the best way to put it.
It's a good word. We'll add it to the vocabulary.
Yeah, why not? There's a whole bunch of people who make up words and definitions right now anyway.
So let's talk about woke is a made-up word.
Well, that's what I mean. There's a whole new vocabulary in the last 2 years that is, you could do a dictionary alone on that. But we're here to talk about our new show.
The right dudes.
It's almost like The Right Stuff. I thought of that too, because that was a great movie. Very inspirational. And I'm watching, just a side note, I'm watching the new Elon Musk SpaceX documentary. There's a new one. I forget. He's an interesting cat. He aggravates me at times, but at times I go, well, at least he creates shit that you can use.
It's funny. I'll tell you something. This is years ago. I was sitting next to Ed Begley Jr. Remember Ed Begley Jr.?
I've met him.
Fantastic guy.
Super nice guy. Far left.
And extremely underrated. And I was sitting next to him and I said to him, I disagree with everything you say, but you are so intellectually honest that you actually make me want to think about switching sides. I said, I'm not going to. But because he actually walks the walk and talks the talk.
Absolutely does.
His house is turned on by his bicycle that him and his wife. I mean, just everything he does is really intellect. So you have to respect people like that, even if you disagree with them, because he's not one of those limousine liberals. He's not flying private jets, and he's actually walking, he's been hybrid and electric before that was ever even a concept.
Yeah. He's in Bend, Oregon. People don't know. I was actually looking there years ago to live and buy a place, and he eats at the local little restaurant there. And that's where I ran into him. Super nice guy.
And one of the best movies of all time, which was The In-Laws. I mean, one of the best comedies ever written.
That is a good movie. We get sidetracked, but we have a new show, The Right Dudes.
Yes, The Right Dudes. Yes,
The Right Dudes. Let's talk about where this came from, because we've known each other about a year and a half. I've been on the World According to Ben Stein. You're the producer, obviously. And there's been a whole host of ideas hatched. I tell people, we're great at ideas. I can come up with a bazillion ideas. It's the execution is the rough part, because we're proof any dummy can come up with an idea. The hard part's getting it into action and actually making
actualizing it.
Yeah, exactly. Big word. Actualization.
Well, I think a lot of it comes from my writing past. I have written a ton of stuff, a lot of stuff, and I've sold a few scripts, and that never got made, of course, and I've pitched a ton of shows that never got sold. And I've never really, to be honest with you, loved writing. And when you're new in Hollywood, it's very hard, and you're young, it's very hard taking criticism. It's very hard being, even if it's constructive, and it's detrimental to you oftentimes. But I remember I had, sold Ben Stein. We had pitched a script or a treatment that I had created for him, and people said to me, "This is gold. There's no way this doesn't get sold." And this was 2004 or 5, let's say, and it was the height of the Bush stuff.
Okay.
And we walked in. It was, I don't know if I brought this up with you before, but it was called Ben Stein's America. Yeah. Where we would, and it was, and I remember when we went into A&E, we went into everywhere to pitch this. And this was the height of when Ben was massive, from when Ben Stein's money to the commercials to everything. And it didn't matter. It was like, we could have been giving away gold, but it was the toxicity was just, and I pitched a bunch of shows after to people from HBO to, it doesn't really matter. And I've been writing for years for places like the American Spectator, American Greatness, Real Clear Politics. And during COVID, I started doing the podcast with Ben, and writing, I never really enjoyed. The funny thing, Gary, I never enjoyed writing. I'm not a trained writer.
I'm not either. It's hard.
But it's hard. It's difficult. And, but we started doing the world according to Ben Stein. It was a lot of fun. It had a modest success, and the evolution was, to myself, was I'm older now. I like to collaborate, and it's nice finding like-minded people, like you said. That listen, whether the hardest, I'll tell you like this: the hardest thing for me is when you write for conservative places. They expect you to toe the conservative line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's really difficult because socially on certain issues, I'm not in line with them. And it's very like this, pull and tug type of thing. And it was tiring. And that's the great thing about podcasts is, or, collaborating with other people, is that you could have different ideas. We don't agree with each other and everything, but who cares?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, the format, podcasts have been around a long time now, about a decade, I think, roughly. And it's changed. The problem is it's a very crowded space now because every 5-year-old has a podcast, and which makes it hard because anytime something new comes along that's wide open, blogs were the same way. I literally remember my friend's son was 7 and he had his own blog, and you're all, what? I
was about to say my nephew too. Yeah.
Yeah. They have their own blogs and they have more followers than you.
Because they know how to use Instagram far better than I do, or probably you do.
Yeah. Social media is rough for anyone, especially a guy like me who really doesn't give a shit. I mean, social media to me is insanity, but if you have a business, you have to use it to some extent, right? You try to. But a podcast gives you a whole different avenue because it's not social media, but you can reach people, you can get an audience. And it's interesting you say that because people ask me all the time, they go, well, why aren't you on Fox? Why aren't you on this? And I go, first of all, they don't know who I am. I don't think they do. Second of all, I don't toe their line either. They could, if they let me on there, they'd be like, oh, this guy's going to say something we don't agree with.
You raise a great point there, because especially if anybody, the people that listen, the last comment we got on Apple was, we love the podcast. Gary's our favorite. And as our favorite guest on The World According to Ben Stein. And we would never
Can you give me their email address? I got to thank my mother for sending that to you.
And we would never get the opportunity to speak about the things that we talk about now, extending to the right dudes, because it just doesn't fit the narrative of any organization. It doesn't. And that's the interesting thing is, even as like you have OAN, which is One America News, I guess, or even Newsmax, they're still not willing to go that extra step. They're trying to copy Fox News. Fox News didn't try to copy. That's what was the genius of Ailes. He was like, we're going to do women. We're going to have hot women. He was so politically, it was subliminally incorrect.
Yeah.
And he didn't follow. But everybody tries to follow instead of being innovators. And that's why they get a little jump, right? They all had a little jump after everybody was mad at Fox News after the election. But most people have gone back to Fox News.
Yeah, and that's interesting because that's you know, back in the day when the government, when I was in the government, CNN was on all the time early in my government.
Yeah.
Because it was more wide open. You know,
it was the only thing.
Yeah, you had Glenn Beck, you had lefties, you had righties, you had goofballs, you had a little bit of everything. So it made it good because you could get a well-rounded, and then it slowly started pitching left. Fox came out, it started, and it went right. And the middle got cut out. And that's the problem is today, if you're in the middle and you have views on both sides, you're considered contrarian. And you don't have a place, which is weird because that is most of America.